It was a huge, huge week, Harbin. Momentous,
Huge.
huge. Welcome to the Section YY8 podcast. Negative Niece and Harb. We got stood up by Gavin once again. Unbelievable, Harbin.
I mean, it is believable.
Well, that is true. Texted him this morning. Said, "Hey man, need you on tonight." He's like, "I can't tonight." Short and sweet, to the point.
Let's see, didn't beat around the bush on you.
I'll give him credit for that. I'll give him credit for that. So big loaded show. We're not going to play around tonight, Harbin. Just an absolutely loaded, huge show this week. Tennessee football, big win yesterday over Mississippi State. We'll get into that. Big game this Saturday coming up against the Bulldogs. And then we've got Tennessee basketball, big road game at Louisville, or as the announcers on any major network call them, Louisville. Tennessee played them this weekend. And Tennessee baseball has been playing this past week. So we've got that to talk about. We've got our picks from last week. We got to make picks for this week. Just an unbelievably loaded show, Harbin.
A mega show, some would say.
It is, I mean, this is a big time of year. I mean, it's a very busy time of the year, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. Sure.
Um, so let's talk about this before we get it out of the way. What about our boy Donald Trump blowing out, dominating Kamala? Just an unbelievable night on Tuesday night. I stayed up into the wee hours of Wednesday morning, watched his acceptance speech or his victory speech. Uh, God, I was so pumped up, so proud of our country for trying to put this country back on the right track. But just a huge night. We celebrated yesterday in G10. The Trump flag was flying. YMCA was played. The Trump dance happened. It was incredible. Golf swings. I can't remember who it was. I was doing the golf swing during the YMCA dance, and somebody said, "You're coming a little too far inside, niece." I was like, "Really? Unbelievable." I didn't know my golf swing would get critiqued here in G10 while I was doing an air swing.
I just want to remind you this is a PG show.
Yes, I just realized I said something very inappropriate just then, but you also played some inappropriate music yesterday at the tailgate, did you not?
I don't have any recollection.
Of course you don't. We had to cut that one off pretty quickly. Sad. But
Hey, it was just what was next on shuffle.
it's not your
Don't,
fault.
don't blame me, blame Apple.
It's not your fault. I blame Tim Cook or whoever is in charge of Apple these days.
If you don't like it, go to Steve Jobs' graveside and bitch at him.
So shout out to all my loyal MAGA cohorts out there. One man Trump rally. Hope you're listening. You know who you are. He's out there. Big Montana gifted me. I don't have it here with me. I wish I did. I don't want to get up and get it, but a camo MAGA hat with 4547 on it for my birthday. So appreciate that, Big Montana. So looking forward to the next 4 years to get this country back on track. And if you don't like it, I got two words for you: Donald Trump. All right, Harbin, back to business. Tennessee football. I don't want to say it was a big win. It was an interesting win over Mississippi State yesterday. Tennessee, we said it last week. We've talked about it on here before over the past couple weeks. Tennessee is what they are what they are. They is what they is. They sometimes can't get out of their own way on the offensive side of the football. They're pretty, I don't want to say they're elite defensively, but they're pretty good, pretty elite defensively. And but the offense, once again in the first half, couldn't get out of their own way. Dylan Sampson fumbled the football, went for it after a turnover on four straight interesting play calls by either Josh Heupel or Joey Halsey. Uh, four straight halfback dives basically up the middle inside the 10-yard line and picked up basically 8 yards on that possession and didn't score. But Tennessee had a chance in that first half yesterday to be up 21, 24, 28 to nothing at different points of the game. But instead, they went up at the half. Still a good half, 20-7. Had to manufacture some points there late. Big story today was Dylan Sampson played through it, but he was a little banged up during the game, had an ankle, foot injury. But the big one was Nico Iamaleava, our tribal, soon to be tribal chief, left the game after the half with a quote upper body injury. Does your sources, does your inside info have any more updates on his upper body injury?
My sources during the game said that it was concussion protocol. I don't know how accurate that is, but my source, I'm not going to reveal him, but he is on field level during every home game. I don't know how true that is. Could be right, could be wrong. From other outlets, I've heard potentially shoulder. Um, but I know everybody that was in the stands, you can confirm this. We're all confused because it didn't look like anything happened. The next thing
Yeah.
you know, people are on Twitter or Facebook or wherever they may have gotten their news, and all of a sudden he's not playing the second half. But there was a hit that he took on the second to last drive of the first half. I'm gonna be honest, didn't look like there was a ton there. Definitely wasn't a dirty hit. I'm not saying that, but the only thing I can think of is maybe landed awkwardly or something. Um, but with what Josh Heupel said after the game, it was pretty much like, yeah, he may or may not have been banged up. We didn't need him in the second half. We're just pretty much guaranteeing that he's going to be able to play next week. That's kind of the vibe that I got from Josh Heupel's answer on Nico. I feel like he's fine. May got shaken up a little bit. But I feel like Heupel may or may not have tensed up a little bit and was like, you know what? Let's just make sure he's able to go in Athens next week.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. There was a video of him leaving the locker room, going to the uh, Hank Laricella Center area there. It's kind of the lounge, reception type area. And he was walking out with his parents after the game last night, and he just had a towel over his head. He couldn't really see his face, and he was just kind of walking with his head down. Just, I don't know, it was very odd. He was walking on his own under no assistance. He had no sling on, no braces, nothing. So it was very odd, like you said. We came out of the half and he wasn't in there, and Dylan Sampson. They started the second half with your boy, Gaston Moore, and Peyton Lewis at running back. And Big Montana and Day Day and I looked at each other and was like, oh, are they punishing these guys for something? Or, Like, what happened? And then he didn't come back in. And then word starts circulating to the stadium. Oh, he's out, upper body injury. I got one text during the game, and I won't reveal who sent me this because I've not heard it from anyone else, but they were claiming Nico had an injury or a seizure in the locker room at halftime. I haven't heard that one. But I don't know if they got that from the Vol for Life Facebook group or what. But yeah, it was just odd because he finished the half. There was one hit that he took, like you were talking about. It was down there on that could have been pass interference in the south end zone. He got hit. There was no pass interference called, and he ran off the field, and they kicked the field goal, and we went to the half and didn't know anything. But I think Heupel and his staff and the team had a lot of faith in the defense to keep Tennessee in that game and keep us ahead. But I'll be honest, they came out, ran the football really well in the second half, and Gaston Moore, his numbers are pedestrian, 5 of 8, 38 yards. But my boy came out and was just slinging it down the field, which has led to a lot of memes today and videos.
Leroy James.
Yes. He hey, it's 3rd and 2. We need you to help pick this up. And he just flings it down the field. I
Oh
think
well.
he threw more passes down the field than Nico has. But it ended up some of them were underthrown so poorly that the defensive backs ran into the receivers. They also didn't play very good coverage. Mississippi State's not very good defensively. They're atrocious against the run, but they're not very good defensively at all. And Tennessee took advantage of it, especially in the run game in the second half, and was able to ground and pound and get out of there with a win last night, 33-14. Any takeaways from you from the game besides the Nico injury and the Dylan Sampson getting banged up a little bit?
Nothing crazy. We did what we needed to do. That's all I was looking for. Like you said, it was ground and pound. When Samson went down with his injury, I don't know how serious that was. Obviously, with as much as he touched the ball in the second half, I'm assuming it wasn't anything. But when he went down at the end of the first half, I was concerned. I'm sure you and Day Day and Big Montana were as well.
We
Um,
were.
I don't know, and it was just an odd feeling every time he got hit in the second half. It's like if Nico's not playing, why is Dylan Sampson still? Um, but that kind of told me that he was more than likely fine. But in the moment, it did feel weird. Defense played pretty well. Um, yeah, I don't really, I don't want to say this how it's going to sound, but honestly, it's just kind of a boring game. It was just kind of boring. And I hate to say this, but it's true. The crowd checked out when Nico didn't come back in the second half because I had state fans kind of all around me, and they were like, "Yeah, this place is cool, but it's not as loud as I thought it'd be." And they were super nice and super cool, and I was returning it to them. I didn't want to look at them and be like, "Well, you know, it's kind of hard to care about y'all." I didn't want to say that. But you combine that with your prodigy quarterback not playing in the second half when you're up by 2 scores. That's kind of what you're going to get, especially in our it feels like fourth straight night game. I don't know if that number's true or not, but it feels like it at least. Bama was 3:30, so I guess
Yeah,
four out of five maybe.
I think that's right. Yes.
Anyway, it was just kind of it was an odd feeling in the stadium. But with that being said, you get you get a 19-point conference win at home going into more than likely your most important game of the season. So, and also I love how Gaston Moore just absolutely slings it. Because in my mind, I know this isn't how he operates, but in my mind, the way I see him thinking is I'm a fifth year senior and I'm the backup. What's the worst thing they're going to do if I'm up here? Bench me? I'm already benched. Who cares? And he just absolutely slings it. And he threw the Derek Carr special 2 plays in a row,
Yeah.
which I absolutely loved, which is underthrowing a streak route and getting the pass interference out of it. That drive, if y'all remember that exact drive that I'm talking about, was one of the funniest drives I've ever seen in Neyland Stadium. Like I was literally laughing during it. But I think
Same.
I think he played well. I don't think there's any question that Dylan Sampson is the most important player on our offense. He may be the most important player on our team. Could be a slight exaggeration. Maybe, maybe not. I would love to see him quit fumbling though.
Yeah, he's got to stop that.
If he cut out the fumbles, he would be the undisputed either number 2 back in the country or 1B. He's got 20 touchdowns, 1,100 yards against the SEC in 9 games. If he if he would quit giving the football to the other team, I think you're looking at a either first or very early second round draft pick. Now I think you may be looking at that regardless.
Yeah. He's good. I mean, he's carrying his team. I was just looking at his totals from last night. 30 carries. I mean, he's a workhorse. And they talk about that. If you go back and watch the games, they talk about I think he put on like 15 pounds or something like that in the off season, bulked up because he knew he was going to have to carry the load a little more. But 30 carries, 152 yards, 149 yards actually. He lost 3 yards, 1 touchdown. Um, Peyton Lewis came in 14 carries, 44 yards. He's been a nice addition. Um, Cam Seldon was in there as well. Got a few carries. But he's the man that's keeping this offense together. And I'm gonna give some credit to the offensive line. Their run blocking has gotten better as the season's gone along too. There in the second half, they started bullying Mississippi State up front, pushing them around. You could see the holes from I don't know. You could probably see them too from where you were sitting because we've got a little bit of the same angle, but you could see the holes open up, especially when they were going toward the south end zone away from us in Z11. But I thought the offensive line is hard to say on pass protection. There was only 21 total passes thrown by Tennessee last night, 13 by Nico, 8 by Gaston Moore. I mean, Nico was 8 of 13, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns at the half. I think he's playing better. Um, but Dylan Sampson in that running game really took over in the second half and willed Tennessee to the 19-point win. Um, like I said, the only thing that bothered me about last night was I don't know, and maybe I'm overthinking it here, but I don't know what's happened to our creativity. I tweeted this earlier on the Section YY8 Twitter. I don't know what's happened to the creativity of Tennessee's offense when they get in the red zone, but especially inside the 10-yard line. They get very vanilla, very conservative. They're not taking a lot of chances. And that was shown last night when Boo Carter, great game from him last night. Boo Carter interception right after Dylan Sampson's fumble sets Tennessee up at the 9-yard line and they can't score. But the problem I had with it, and I heard it on the post game, was and Troy Fleming, who's been on here before. He said the play calling in that possession was embarrassing. I don't know if it was embarrassing. It's just I don't know why they've gotten so conservative, especially at this point in the season. I don't know if they just didn't want to show something. I don't like that argument if that's the case because we're in a playoff chase here. You're trying to win football games. You can't worry about next week, especially when you're playing a SEC team. So if that's their reasoning, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But I don't know what's happened to the. It's gotten so vanilla. I mean, I know we don't have a Princeton Fant right now on this team who was a tight end slash fullback slash half, whatever the team needed. He was whatever the team needed him to be, Harbin. And I just don't know why we can't move Nico around when they're in the goal line area. Why they can't run some different options. I don't know what the plays are, but I don't like halfback dives 4 plays in a row right off tackle or off guard. I don't understand. And they zoomed in on Heupel. I was watching it this afternoon. They zoomed in on Heupel after the turnover on downs, and he's just dumbfounded looking. I don't know if he was dumbfounded because the offensive line couldn't get a hole open and get those boys in or what, but that's my only negative takeaway of the game. I mean, it's hard to be super negative after a 19-point win in the SEC. It doesn't matter who it's against. These games are tough in this conference, and I'm not going to complain about it, but that was the only negative takeaway I had from it. There was one bad possession there in the second half from the defense. They looked like they got caught with their pants down and let Mississippi State march right down the field in like 2 minutes and score and gave them a little hope. But Tennessee went right back down and answered the bell with a touchdown of their own to kind of put it away. But that's the only thing that really bothered me about last night was some of the play calling. But I guess I'm kind of nitpicking here. But other than that, great win. Got to move on. I was just reading some stuff while you were talking. It looks like the Nico injury was more precautionary to get him out of the game. Like you said, maybe for next week, rest of the season. They didn't maybe necessarily, which is kind of cocky and arrogant, but we didn't need him. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on the game last night, or it's not much else to say, to be honest.
No, like I said, like what I heard was concussion protocol, and that makes the most sense, especially with him walking out with a towel over his head, keeping the light out of his eyes and whatnot. We're fine. We're 8-1. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we got 3 games left. Yeah, eight and
Yeah.
one. You're 8-1 going into Athens. We lost to Arkansas. I understand that, but what more could you ask for? Seriously,
I think we all
with
had us at this record after this game.
with a freshman quarterback and a spotty offensive line, what more could you ask for realistically? I
I'm
mean,
very happy with where this program is right now. I've said it many times, but
the
yeah, I said it.
Arkansas game hurts right now. It hurts more because obviously every two-loss SEC team is in the hunt, except for Tennessee, which I'm not even going to get into that topic currently unless you want to, because everybody's talking about literally every SEC team that finishes with 2 losses in the hunt. But if you ask anybody that works for ESPN, Tennessee's got to win out to make the playoff.
We'll talk about that later. But you're right.
But anyway, you control your own destiny. We've talked about it for multiple weeks. You go down to Athens, get the job done. You've got UTSA and Vanderbilt in front of you, which Vanderbilt has had a very good season. And I will give them their flowers. But those are 2 games you're going to be favored in. And if you win against Georgia and Vanderbilt, you are in the SEC championship game. What more could you ask for in November?
This is what we prayed for.
I used to pray for times like
I
this.
used to we used to pray for times like this. I was just looking ahead at the schedule. You're right. I mean, UTEP were 99% favorites to win that game according to FPI. The Vandy game, it's interesting, and I'm not surprised by this. We were at 90% a few weeks ago to win that game. It's at 79.2%. Vanderbilt's a better football team. They've played a lot better. They didn't look good yesterday, but regardless, that's not going to be a cakewalk. But Tennessee is going to be favored. They're pretty heavy favorites percentage wise to win that game. But, and we'll get into the college football playoffs after this. Um, but with a loss Saturday at Georgia, there's going to be a logjam of two-loss SEC teams. You're going to have, say, Tennessee goes to Athens and loses. You're going to have Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama with two losses, and then later on in the season, you could potentially have five if things play out with Texas A&M losing at Texas, or vice versa. So you're going to have possibly five teams in the SEC with two losses. Now, that's going to affect the SEC championship game, who's going to play in that. It's also going to affect the playoffs, which we'll get into in a minute. But um, I was just looking at this Georgia game. I don't think it's a must win for Tennessee because there's a lot of football. We keep saying that there's a lot of football to be played. Season's winding down, but it would behoove Tennessee to win this football game Saturday because I've just got this feeling in the pits of my tummy, Harbin. And it's not gas that I'm aware of, but I don't know. And I've not looked into it enough. I saw a couple posts today that kind of compared the teams. I don't know how Tennessee matches up with these other teams as far as resumes go. And we'll look into it more, but um, that's what my worry is. I mean, at the start of the season, we said, oh, 10-2, you're in. That's good enough. I'm not so sure at this point that that's happening because we've got a logjam of two lost teams. So it's going to come down to where does Tennessee stack up with these teams? I mean, going to like say we lose to Georgia, Vandy's a must win at this point because you're going to win the UTEP game. But Vandy's a must win, and Vandy's not going to be a bad win on your resume. That's not something you get to say a whole lot, but it's not going to be a bad win on your resume. I know they're not going to be ranked, but they're a bowl eligible football team, I believe, aren't they? So it's not like you're playing like Mississippi State's not a good win. It's a good win because you won, but they're not good. And Tennessee just doesn't have a lot of meat on the bone here on their resume besides Alabama. And they need Florida to keep winning, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen because they're down to a third string backup quarterback. Arkansas has kind of let them down since we lost to them. They need to win. But that LSU loss to Alabama last night has really logjammed this conference. It got rid of LSU, but I was kind of hoping LSU would win and kick Bama out because I don't think our resume stacks up with Alabama. But like I said, still a lot of football to be played. And I don't think this game Saturday against Georgia and Athens is a must win. But we definitely don't need to go down there and get blown out. But I think it would behoove Tennessee to win because it gives them a little breathing room too. Because I know First Bank Stadium in Nashville is not the toughest place to play. It's going to be a home game for Tennessee, but Tennessee's lost out there before, and you don't want to go out there and choke in that game and lose your season because of that. So I, and I'm not saying that'll happen. I think Tennessee beats Vandy. I think we're better than Vandy, but um, again, I don't know. I don't know that it's a must win. I don't think it is. I just don't think Tennessee can go down there and just get the crap kicked out of them. Do you agree or disagree?
I definitely agree. Uh, but I've got a couple thoughts on that. One, I think our defense is too good to let us get blown out by anybody. It could very easily be a repeat of 2 years ago where we lost by two touchdowns, but we got whipped for 60 minutes. However, I think this is the worst offensive line Georgia's had since Kirby's first year at Georgia. And I think that's a lot of the reason why Carson Beck has made so many mistakes. He's thrown what, 12 picks in the last 6 games?
Something like that. It's not been good.
A lot of that is because he doesn't have 8 seconds to throw every time. I mean, I never played quarterback, let alone at a high level like that. But if you have more time to go through your reads, you're going to make the right decision. But line of scrimmage in general, if you watch Georgia this year, between O line and D line, it's the worst. It's the worst both of their lines have been in the last at least 6 years. And that's not me being a homer. That's me being honest. Georgia fans will tell you that as well. They're not as scary as they have been the last 5 years or last 3 years, whatever you want to say. This is a very winnable ball game. We're going to have to play well. And we're going to have to exercise whatever demons we have on the road. Josh Heupel, I'm talking to you. But am I scared of Georgia? No, not at all. But I also don't know which Georgia we're going to get. Are we going to get the Georgia that played Texas? Or are we going to get the Georgia that won by 1 point in Lexington? Are we going to get the Georgia from the first half of the Alabama game or the second half of the Alabama game? Or are we going to get the Georgia that played in Oxford last week? They got throttled by a pretty damn good Ole Miss team. I will say that.
I agree.
But the one thing that I've learned during this college football season is that I don't know jack shit about the SEC. And if you say you do, you're lying. The same Ole Miss team that beat Georgia by 18 only scored 17 points at home and lost to Kentucky. Like you can't accurately predict this. You can have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, and you may fall into being right every once in a while. But it is what it is. Also, if you say that you saw Alabama winning by 36 points in Death Valley this weekend, you're a liar.
I did not see that.
Nobody saw that coming. Shame on Brian Kelly for not making Jalen Milroe play quarterback. You know what happens when you don't make him play quarterback? He runs for 190 yards and 4 touchdowns on your ass, and you get beat.
That's what
But
happened.
going back, yeah, that's exactly what happened. But going back to Georgia, we could go down there and lose by 2 touchdowns, and I would not be shocked whatsoever. We could go down there and win by 10 to 14, and I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be a little surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. Or we could go down there and blow the imaginary roof off that place. Nothing is going to surprise me. The only thing that would surprise me is if we gave up 40. It's the only thing that surprised me. But
I got a couple
I
stats
don't.
for you. Sorry, go ahead. Finish up.
No, I was just saying I know nothing, and we'll find out. But this is the most beatable Georgia's been since Kirby's second year. Just go out there and do it. Just go out there and do it. Just win the damn game.
JWTDG it. So, here's some stats to look up as I'm looking them up. I meant to do this earlier today, didn't get it done. That's on par for me lately. Um, Couple stats here. Remember these numbers watching this game Saturday. Third down conversion percentage. Georgia's offense is 89th in the country, 38.6%. Tennessee's third down conversion defense is number 2 in the country at 24% per game. That's a big difference between those. Tennessee's third down conversion percentage on offense, they're 39th in the country at 44%, pretty good. Georgia's number 6. defensively on third down conversion defense, 28%. Both of these teams defensively locked down on third down. Um, Another stat, Georgia is 100. Let me find this here. I'll say this first. Tennessee is ninth in the country rushing defense, allowing 100 yards per game. Pretty good, right? Georgia is near the bottom as I sorry, I got to pull it back up here. Georgia's near the bottom of the country in rushing per game. They're 104th in the country rushing yards per game with 124 yards per game. That is so unlike Georgia. And it goes back to what you're talking about, their offensive line. I don't want to pick the game just yet because we're going to do that later. But just looking at those two things gives me hope for Tennessee to go down there and win this football game. Georgia's not good on third downs offensively. That goes back to their offensive line. They can't protect Carson Beck. He's been erratic because of it. Tennessee's very good on third down defense, elite, some might say. And then rushing the football, Georgia is not good rushing the football. And Tennessee's very good at defending it, ninth in the country. So that's a couple things to keep your eye on there. If Tennessee can control the line of scrimmage, put Carson Beck under some pressure and make him make some throws. He might go out there and make some throws and look like Stetson Bennett, but he's going to have to go out there and actually do it. And he's not been able to do that lately. And Tennessee and Ole Miss's defenses are very similar. They got good defensive lines. They put a lot of heat on the quarterback. They don't give up a lot on the ground. And, I think I was looking at the line. It started at 8.5 in favor of the Bulldogs. It's up to 9.5 now. I know Vegas knows something, but I just feel like Tennessee's got an advantage in those categories that I just listed. And they're better than Georgia in those areas. And that's not been the case the past few years. We've always said it on here. If you want to win in the SEC, you got to be good up front in the front seven. And right now, Tennessee is about as good as it gets, especially on the defensive side of the football on their front seven. Georgia's mediocre. They're mid. And I hope Tennessee can go down there and take advantage of it and find enough offense to carry him through and let the defense continue to carry the load because they've done it all year. Why wouldn't they continue now? I think this will be a tight back and forth ball game. I don't think either team will blow either team out. Would love it if Tennessee did. I'll be there, so y'all can blame me if we lose. But um, I just think this game sets up bet as good as it has in a long time for Tennessee to go down there and get their first win in Athens since 2016 and only their second win in Athens since 2006, which is sad if I'm correct on that. I don't think we beat them past 2006 down there besides the 2016 game. So I think this is the best chance Tennessee's had to go down there and beat the Bulldogs in a really long time.
It is. It just comes down to, besides the state you say, we have to establish the run, point blank. We have no choice. Dylan Sampson has to keep being Dylan Sampson this upcoming weekend. If he doesn't, we don't have a chance. Or somebody, whether it be Selden or Bishop or Lewis, we have to get it going on the ground. But 99% Dylan Sampson. Another thing is stop the run. Make Carson Beck throw the ball. And if we lose because Carson Beck goes for 320, three touchdowns and no picks, and so damn be it. It'll be his first game in 7 games that he's played well. But that's kind of the key in most of the games we've played this year. Run the ball, make them feel you, and stop their run. I trust our front set. I trust our whole defense enough, especially with the way Carson Beck's been playing. He's gonna have a little extra juice because it's a home night game. But a lot of this depends on, are we gonna get a pissed off Georgia that gives us everything we got? Or will they be battling their own demons while they're battling us? I think that's what a lot of this comes down to. I
You
think
s-
they're. I think we're going to get their best. And if I sound like an idiot next Sunday for saying this, that's fine. I don't know what Georgia is. I really don't. If you look at it, the one game that they've played great for 4 quarters against semi-competent competition was at Texas. And I thought that's what we were going to see in Oxford. It was one of those Kirby Smart, hey, you forgot about us. Let me remind you games. And we didn't get that at all this weekend. So that one threw me for a loop. I don't know what we're going to get. Hell, I don't know what we're going to get out of us. I got a pretty good idea. Ugly offense and pretty damn good defense. That's pretty much what I think we're going to get out of us. Hopefully that's enough. I think we're going to have at least a big player or two on offense to win this game. I don't think we can get away with Dylan Sampson carrying it 35 times for 160 yards and passing for around 200 yards. Maybe if Carson Beck gives it to us 2 or 3 times, that's probably enough. But I don't know. I don't know. This game is the biggest I don't know game of the season so far. Personal opinion.
yeah, I mean, you're right. You know what Tennessee's going to be. They're going to come out and they're going to play very good defense. Offensively, I wish they'd come out and I'm not saying they've not opened it up, but I wish they'd open it up just a little bit. Throw caution to the wind here. What do you got to lose? A game? You weren't picked to win it anyways at the start of the year. I know I didn't pick us to win this game, and I don't know that many others did either. And Vegas isn't picking us to win. FPI isn't picking us to win. So let's leave it all out there on the field. I just don't want us to go down there and play really good defense and get super conservative and just run it, run it, run it, punt, run, short pass, punt, because we're trying to protect Nico. I'm not saying physically, I'm talking like mentally. Um, but I trust Josh Heupel, and we'll see what he does. But uh, I think, like I said a minute ago, this game sets up really good for Tennessee. You could be an idiot, I could be an idiot. We could look dumb on Sunday or Saturday night whenever this game's over with. But I legitimately think it's Tennessee's best chance to win in Athens in a very long time. And it has showed me, and maybe we'll see it on Saturday, that we've seen it against Alabama and Florida. Tennessee surpassed Florida. They've closed the gap. We're getting close to being even with Alabama, even though I mean I know we've beat them 2 out of the last 3 years. But from a depth and roster standpoint, I still don't know that we're quite there yet, but we're very close. And we've really closed the gap with these teams, with those Alabamas and Georgias. And you can tell. And I hope we go down there and play like it this weekend and show the nation we're not. I saw a lot of people yesterday. We're the most flawed one loss team in the country. So what?
No, we're not.
So what if we
No, we're not.
are?
No,
But we're not. Well, I don't think we are. But so what if we are? Don't apologize.
Penn State's best win is Illinois,
Yeah,
and they're getting put on a pedestal. I saw this just sparked a rant for me. If you flip flop Penn State and Indiana's helmets, where are each team ranked?
not where they're at.
Penn
Although
State,
Indiana is getting some love now. I will say that.
Penn State is probably number 2 for being undefeated and not really beating anybody. And Indiana is not in the top 15 for that one loss. Go argue with a cinder block because you're going to get a better argument out of it than me.
Yeah.
It's
I was just
true.
looking. It's funny you brought that up. I've got the AP rankings pulled up. They came out today. Oregon remains number one. Ohio State moved up to number two after the Georgia loss. Texas moved up a couple spots to 3. Penn State, number 4. The aforementioned Indiana up 3 spots to number 5. So the Hoosiers, the undefeated Indiana Hoosiers, not in basketball, in football, fifth ranked team in the country, according to the Associated Press. Vols moved up 1 spot to 6. Rounding out the top 10, you got BYU at 7, Notre Dame at 8, Bama at 9, and Ole Miss jumped up a bunch of spots to 10. Interesting of note, Georgia is 11, dropped 9 spots in the AP poll. It'd be interesting to see where they're at in the playoff rankings. LSU dropped 7. A&M remained where they're at 15. LSU's at 21. South Carolina's jumped into the top, back in the top 25. They're at 23. Missouri's still at 24. Um, so college football rankings, Harbin, we talked, kind of previewed them last week's show, and I think they ended up about where we thought they were. Tennessee comes in at 7 overall, but they were 8th in the rankings because BYU was the lowest rated conference champion. So they were the 4 seed. So that pushed Tennessee down to the 8 seed. This is going to change because Indiana won in convincing fashion, I would assume. But as of last week's rankings, it had Tennessee as the 8 seed hosting 9 seed Indiana. Trying to pull up the rankings here. Let's see. Oregon was the 1 seed, obviously. Ohio State was 2. Georgia was 3. They'll drop. Miami was 4. They'll drop. What? Texas was 5. Penn State. Well, Miami may not drop because they're probably still considered ACC champions. Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU 9, Notre Dame 10. Alabama 11, Boise State 12. SEC teams on the outside looking in. A&M at 14, LSU at 15. LSU will be out. Ole Miss was at 16. They'll climb the rankings. Be interesting to see if they jump past A&M and SMU. I would assume they would. SMU at 13. I don't know if they swap places with Bama or not, but what was your thoughts on the very first 12-team playoff rankings that came out?
It was interesting, to say the least. I don't think anybody knew what to expect. And I'm going to say this with a grain of salt because obviously the rankings are going to change very much between now and then. But if you offer me a home playoff game hosting the Indiana Hoosiers with a chance to play Oregon, I will rip your arm out of socket shaking your hand. Take
Yes.
100%. It's not even funny. Indiana's good. I think they're a good team. Uh, but it's at home, and I just think we have more talent. I love their coach. Absolutely love him. But if you give me that team at home with a chance to play probably the best team in the country, sign me up. And if you're one of those ones out there that doesn't want to have to play Oregon in the second round, guess what? If you want to win a national championship, you're going to have to beat somebody as good as Oregon. So you might as well get it out of the way early.
And it would be in the Rose Bowl. Tennessee hasn't been to the Rose Bowl in like 70 years.
Oh, and that too. But here's my thing. If you're going to lose, let's say national championship's not happening. Who cares if you lose in the semifinals or the championship game? Obviously, you want to play the national championship game, no doubt. But if you lose to a team that's been won all year and may or may not win it, pretty much a team that you're going to have to beat no matter what, what's it matter? What's it matter?
Doesn't.
And if you knock them out, arguably, it gets easier after that. Battle tested. I was I would take that, which is there's a near zero chance it's going to happen. But if we get Indiana at home with a chance to play Oregon, I will absolutely rip your arm off taking that deal. I'll take anybody at home. Seriously,
Yeah,
I'll take anybody out.
just give
As
me
long
a home game.
as long as we're yeah, if we get a home game, I'm in. I don't care who it's against. It could be against the Chiefs.
I can't remember. I think it was a coworker of mine when I was out of town this week. We were talking, or somebody I was talking to one night. We were talking about the playoffs, and they were like, "Would you rather play at home or on the road?" And I was like, "Well, obviously, I'd rather play at home. To be honest, and I don't know how if this is going to be like NFL or not. I'd like to win the SEC and have a week off, and then go play in the Sugar or the Rose or something like that. Probably the Sugar, I would assume. But playing a home game Saturday before December in the playoffs, it's not a bad thing. And depending on where your seating is, you win that game, you got a chance to go play in the granddaddy of them all, the most beautiful football setting on the face of the planet Earth, besides Neyland Stadium. I'm talking about beauty. Like the field is perfect, the surroundings is perfect, the weather's always perfect for the Rose Bowl. And like, how would you not want that? But if we have to go on the road, so what? We're going to get to go to somewhere we probably never been to, or maybe it's been a very long time since we've been there, like maybe ever. Indiana, Notre Dame, Penn State. What?
What?
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it could be Alabama. I don't know. I hope not. I went there last year.
You
I
want
don't
you
want to
want
go there.
some people that'd be redneck mad as if we made the
Oh,
playoff and had to go to Tuscaloosa.
oh shit! I'd be one of them.
No, I would be too.
I would be. Where's the? I'd be driving up to Indianapolis to raid the NCAA's office, even though NCAA doesn't technically sponsor football. I would still blame the NCAA, and then I'd drive to Bristol, Connecticut, and get on them at MS at ESPN. But playoff rankings will come out. I don't. Is it Monday or Tuesday? I bet it's Tuesday.
I think it's gonna be Tuesdays from here on out.
Yeah, because Monday Night Football is Monday nights. Because they used to do it during halftime of Monday Night Football. I don't think they do that. I think they want their own standalone show, which I get. How yeah, somebody brought this up the other night. They're like, why are they having the playoff rankings on election night? How dumb. I thought it was brilliant. Because everybody's going to be sitting in their living room for the most part, or sitting at a bar or a watch party watching the election. But the election results don't come in till after 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And so this comes on at 7, and you've got the nation captured for about 30 minutes to an hour talking about the college football playoff. And I know I was on pins and needles all day Tuesday. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't hardly eat, knowing that the Tennessee Volunteers were going to more than likely be in the playoff rankings. Donald Trump was running for president up for re-election after it was stolen from him in 2020. And it was just a crazy day, but I thought it was brilliant having that on Tuesday night. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was awesome.
I agree with you. If anything, it was an hour for people to take all the other bullshit off their mind.
So I brought up talking about the SEC with two playoff teams. We talked about that a little. Um, SEC could have, depending on what happens this weekend, four, and then depending on what happens in a couple of weeks, they could have five teams with two losses jumbled up there. Yeah, where would Tennessee, in your opinion, stand? And I haven't got to look a whole lot into it. I've just seen a couple posts from some Tennessee guys saying don't believe the media when they tell you that Tennessee doesn't stack up with a Texas or a Penn State or a Ole Miss or an Alabama, etc. But how do you see this playing out for the Vols if they go to Athens and lose Tuesday or Saturday, and Texas and Texas A&M drop in there with two losses? Like, how does this fare for the Vols?
If you listen to the media, not good.
Is
Which
that the same media that said Kamala was going to win?
I'm not saying it's the same media,
Same type.
but like you said, there's potential for I think six SEC teams to finish at 10-2, and it's a very good likelihood. Um, which would be Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, A&M, or Texas. Well, if A&M beats Texas, they both finish 10-2. So
One of
both,
those teams is going to have two losses.
so that's five. There's one more, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. I can't.
There's Ole Miss. There could be Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas slash Texas A&M. So that's five right there. Um,
Anyway, if you look at which it depends on if the committee's taking in losses or quality wins more, you know? Let's say it does happen. Georgia's two losses would be to Ole Miss and Alabama, both top 15 teams. Texas's would be to Georgia and A&M, which if A&M finishes 10-2, they are more than likely top 15, which would make both their losses top 15. Ole Miss, Ole Miss's losses are Kentucky and who else they lose to? Is it LSU? Did LSU beat them or did they beat LSU?
who?
Ole Miss. Ole Miss. Who was Ole Miss's other loss?
They lost to Kentucky and
Is it A&M? I'm gonna have to look this up.
Lord, you now I don't know.
I have to look this up.
I got it right here. Hold on. Ole Miss is 4-2 in the conference. Fifth in the SEC. They have lost to LSU and Kentucky.
Okay, so LSU beat.
Yes, they lost by three to both of those teams, by the way. And they've only got Ole Miss only has two games left. They're at Florida hosting Mississippi State. Good chance they win out.
So really, you're lumping if Georgia beats Tennessee, you're lumping Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Alabama in one group because one of their two losses each are not good losses. Alabama lost at Vanderbilt. Ole Miss lost at home to Kentucky, which, in my opinion, out of these three teams, that's the worst loss. And Tennessee lost at Arkansas, obviously. Out of those three teams, who has the best win? Tennessee beat Alabama, but Alabama and Ole Miss both beat Georgia. All three of those wins were at home for each team. So it's very interesting to see like how not even for the tiebreakers and whatnot of how to get in the SEC championship, which is a whole nother debacle and headache of itself. But just those three teams, all three of them have a good win at home, and all three of them have a not good loss. I don't know. It's a headache. I think Tennessee would be doing the SEC a service by winning on Saturday to alleviate a lot of the headache and stress of these 6-for-2 tiebreakers. And obviously you'd have to beat Vanderbilt as well. But yeah, it's not rigged, but it feels like what a perfect season for this shit show to happen than the first time the SEC has no divisions and the
Yeah.
first 12 team playoff. You know what I mean? It's like perfect storm. It's worst case scenario for the SEC,
Yeah.
for being honest, but it's best case scenario for TV ratings for the playoff.
I agree.
But it's tough. LSU doesn't have well, LSU's out.
They're
LSU's
out.
that doesn't matter. Bama plays A&M and Auburn.
Yes, I
That's
believe
their
so.
only. I mean, that's two of their last three games. Obviously, the A&M game will be worth watching. So A&M's probably got the hardest schedule left. They've got Alabama and Texas left on their schedule. I don't know where either one of those games are being played. That is probably
Mm-mm.
important. But
I don't
yeah,
know
it's
that.
tough. Um, we've talked about this though. The Tennessee Volunteers control their own destiny. Just JWTDG the damn game. You only YOLO once, Nace.
That's all you can do. You can only YOLO once, and you can only JWTDG. You just got to go JWTDG it.
Yeah, it's really simple when you put it in those terms.
No, it is. And I'm trying to work on my projections for the college football playoffs while you were talking. I was listening to you, but trying to work on my projections here. So here's what I came up with. I'm going to do the rankings and then the matchups. And this is after Georgia loses. I've got Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas at 3, Penn State begrudgingly at 4. I've got Tennessee at 5. I went back and forth with Tennessee and Indiana, but I put Indiana at 6 because I feel like their strength of schedule is worse than Tennessee's. BYU at 7, Bama at 8. Notre Dame, I had Bama leaping Notre Dame at 9. My big mover is Ole Miss. I've got them at 10. I think they're a playoff team. SMU, I have them jumping in at 11 and Boise State at 12. So here's what'll happen though, because BYU would still be considered to be the Big 12 champion. So they're going to jump up and be the 4 seed. So it would be in the bracket. It would be Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas projected SEC champ, my projected SEC champ at 3, BYU at 4. So those are your buys. Then you've got Penn State at 5, hosting, let's see here. I've gotten off track. Let's see, Bama, Indy. So the 5 would play the 12. They would play Boise State. You've got 6 seed Tennessee hosting number 11 SMU in Neyland Stadium. You would have number 7 Indiana hosting the 10 seed Ole Miss Rebels in Bloomington. Uh, these matchups, they're like video game matchups. Then you would have the 8 seed Bama hosting the 9 seed in my projections, the negative Nice projections, the 9 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish in Tuscaloosa, two of, if not the most historic programs in college football, playing each other in a 8-9 matchup in December at Bryant Denny Stadium. So that's my projections on that. We'll see how close I am. But it's just going to be interesting. There's so much, we say this, there's so much football. There's really not, but there still is a lot. And there's a lot that can happen these next 3 to 4 weeks, including the championship weekend. So we'll see. You just got to go out there and win the damn game. That's all you can do. Tennessee needs to go down to Georgia, take care of business. You don't have to worry about if they are a 2-loss team. Just don't lose to Vandy, and you're good. You're in. If you beat Georgia, whether you go to Atlanta and lose or not, if you beat Georgia and Vandy, you're going to beat UTEP and go to Atlanta, whether you lose or not, you're in. They're not going to kick. Well, I shouldn't say they're not. I don't believe they would kick a team that loses in the conference championship game out of the playoffs. I just don't think that you can do it. You cannot punish a team for playing an extra game. You just can't do it. So, um, beat Georgia and Vandy, you're in. Everything else is just icing on the cake from there. You might go on the road, you might play at home. You might get a bye if you win the SEC title. Um, it's just, it is. This is what we prayed for, Harbin. These are the times we prayed for. The Vols are in the mix. Told people weeks ago Tennessee was a playoff contender. A couple people laughed at me. I legitimately, in my heart and soul, believe Tennessee's a playoff contender. Even if they lose to Georgia this weekend, we're still a playoff contender. Um, and we'll see. Let's go to Athens and see what happens. You're going to be there, right?
Absolutely not. No, sirree.
That 2022 game scare you off?
I wouldn't even say scared off. It was just I was around the most miserable people I've ever been around in my life.
Are Georgia fans not some of the most, and I know this isn't about Mark Post, who I'll be with this weekend. They're some of the most miserable, and I don't know another word to describe it. They're just miserable, angry people. Very, and they're odd. I mean, it's just like you don't even say anything to them. You're just walking down the street. You were talking about this. You just walk down the street and they start flipping you off and cussing at you and barking at you, crawling on all fours. They're just miserable human beings.
I
They're a lot
don't.
like Democrats.
Here's the thing: you and I could go to the same exact road game and start on opposite ends of the town, and you leave and be like, "Man, that's one of the best places I've ever been. I will come back here every year." And I could leave saying, "I won't be caught dead coming back to this hellhole." Like it, every single place you go has great people, and every place you go has terrible people. Uh, my experience was not great. That's fine. I'm friends with a lot of Georgia fans, and most of them, just like every other fan base, are fairly intelligent and level-headed people. But then you've got the other ones, and I don't know. I ran into a lot of the other ones 2 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot. I've got a great story. I don't remember all the details about it, but it was the 2004 game. I wasn't going to go because we got shellacked by Auburn the week before in Neyland Stadium. That was Jason Campbell, Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown team just beat the fire out of Tennessee. It was a game day game. We did not play well at all. And we basically had no chance to go down there to Georgia and win. And we went down there and came out and just put it on them early and ended up holding on for a 19-14 win. But this is one of the first times I met one of the listeners of this show, Nicole Doty. Shout out Nicole Doty. Her and her now husband John, I believe, I don't think they were married at this point, but they were dating and they had tailgated with me and my uncle and Mark and Donna and whoever else was there earlier in the day. Came back to the car and some Georgia fan, unprovoked, some lady bulldog just starts flipping birds, screaming at Nicole. Well, Nicole, for those that don't know her, she's not going to take that. She fired back. And it kind of got a little ugly there for a minute. But that's just like Nicole wasn't even talking. She was just talking to John and us. And this lady bulldog just started letting her have it. This is just unbelievable. I do remember Nicole. You may not remember that if you're listening, but I remember it somehow. I do remember it.
I remember.
I remember. I remember. All right. Let's move on because we're getting very long-winded here. The listeners are probably falling asleep at this point. Maybe not. Tennessee basketball picked up a big win over the weekend, Harbin. Did anybody even know they were playing? Was my question. I talked to somebody and they're like, the Tennessee's playing today? It's like, yeah, the game's been over for an hour. Went up to Louisville. I'm gonna be honest. I only saw the first like 12, 13 minutes of this basketball game. I was trying to get ready to go to Neyland Stadium to G10. But Tennessee went up to the Yum Yum Center there in Louisville and beat the Cardinal 77-55. Chaz Lanier had a great game. Zakai Ziegler had a great game, except for he had a ton of turnovers. You got to clean that up. But I think from everything I've heard, great win. You were right. I didn't believe this. I looked it up. Louisville was favored in this game. How in the world were they favored? I don't get that one, but Tennessee showed to me. I know Louisville's not great. They might end up being better. hopefully than they were last year. They've been pretty miserable the past couple of years.
Well,
But that's not an easy place to play. I'll just say that.
apparently Louisville's got a million transfer players,
Yes,
like pretty much like brand new roster.
they
So
do. And they got a good coach. Pat Casey came from College of Charleston. He had some really good teams down there, took him to the tournament back to back years. I think he'll do a good job up there, but they're not, I don't think they're there yet. But I mean, they got to be better than they were last year. They didn't, I think they won single digit games last year, but that's not an easy place to play. Louisville's a basketball school. I was reading about the game going into it. There was a lot of buzz around town, although they were giving away free tickets to fans if you went and bought, was it a car wash or something? I can't remember. It's kind of like it's kind of like Kentucky giving away free tickets at the grocery store for football. But nice win for the Vols. They're 2-0. Who do we have? We got a game on Wednesday night, Harbin, in Knoxville. Ooh, Montana on Wednesday night. The Grizzlies.
Montana.
Big Montana. Will he be there? Who knows? I think I might be at that game this Wednesday. I think. I'm not sure yet. There's a chance I get a ticket. But that's
Uh,
Wednesday night, November 13th, 7 p.m. Thompson Bowling Assembly Center at an arena at Food City Center. But any thoughts on the game yesterday? I know we didn't get to watch much of it, but I'm planning on going back and watching it either tonight or tomorrow. But nice win for the Vols. Lanier looked good. Akpara looked good. Ziegler looked good, except for the turnovers. I think these boys can play a little bit.
I think they can too. Like you said, I didn't get to watch much of it. But you go on the road to an historically hard place to play, and you win by 22 while having 20 turnovers.
Oh, wow. We did have 20 turnovers. I didn't see that.
That's pretty good.
Your point guard had 11, by the way.
Phew. Did you get triple double?
Yikes.
Did you get triple double?
Let's see. 19 points, 11 turnovers. It's 7 assists, so close. He had a double double.
Almost had a triple double. Crap.
Almost a triple double. Let's see here. Tennessee held Louisville to shooting the basketball 26% from the field, 25% from 3 point range. Tennessee shot 52% from 3 point range, 10 and 19, 56% from the field overall.
I'll be honest, the bit that I got to watch, Louisville looked like a bunch of plug and play guys trying to play basketball together.
They ain't figured it out yet.
No, I mean, and obviously it's early November. They've played, I think that was their second regular season game they've played together. They had zero chemistry out there. So let's not write off Louisville. That could end up being a good win if they figure it out, resume wise, when it comes down to it in March. But really, you just kind of went up there and took care of business. You were extremely sloppy as well. Learn from it and fix it the next game. It's early November basketball. I'm not going to overreact to a 22-point win or a 22-point loss. Unless Carson Newman comes down 11A and beats us by 22, then I may sound.
Then we got problems.
Yeah,
You
but
don't. You don't. Well, you wouldn't have problems, but
no, I would. No, I would.
all right.
But,
Well, more
but yeah,
Tennessee. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
but I was just going to say, yeah, good win. But I'm not going any
Solid.
further than that. It's the second game of the season. So,
You don't have Tennessee winning the national title after that game?
no, no.
So I
Somebody's gonna have to dethrone Duke.
so
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
people got on me
I'm drinking.
last year. A couple people got on me last year for saying Tennessee was a Final Four contender, which I legitimately believed that they were. Um, we're way too early for that kind of talk right now. I thought it was a solid win. Looking forward to Wednesday night. Keep getting better. They got some more challenges coming up in front of them here in a few weeks. If you haven't watched the basketball preview show, I sat down with David from Hoops Southbound, broke down not only Tennessee, but the rest of the conference and maybe the nation. I can't remember, but it's on our YouTube channel. You can go back and find it on Spotify. So go back and check that out. Not a very long episode, about 30 minutes, but Tennessee's got Montana and Austin Peay at home before they head to the Bahamas week after next. And they got Virginia and then Baylor and or St. John's down there in Nassau. So nice win for the Vols. We'll see how they go. Picks, Harbin. Let's look at last week's picks. Colorado versus Texas Tech. Colorado was -3. You took the Red Raiders. Negative Nice took Colorado. Looks like I came on top on that one. BYU pulling 4.5 at Utah. I took the Utes. You took the Cougars. And why can I not find that score? What was the final score of that game, Harbin? 22-21 BYU. I'm 2-0. Let's see. South Carolina at Vandy. We both lost that game. South Carolina was -3. We both took Vandy. Georgia at Ole Miss. Georgia was -2. We both took Georgia. We both lost that game. Alabama -2.5 at LSU. You took the Crimson Tide. I took the Tigers. So I've got now 3 losses. You've got 1 win. So I'm 2-3. You're 1-4. Looks like we tied. Mississippi State at Tennessee. Tennessee -23.5. I took the Vols. You took the Bulldogs. Tennessee only won by 19. So we went 2-3 this week. Is that right?
I got 2 games right before the Tennessee game. You said it. The BYU game was a 1-point game. Did I take BYU to cover?
You took BYU to cover.
I took Utah. I took BYU money line.
Oh, I didn't write that down. I just have BYU. Well, there you
Yeah,
go for the listeners.
I didn't take them on the point spread.
Harb took BYU money line. You also did say on the Tennessee Mississippi State game, take the under, and under hit.
I also said my lock of the week was Georgia.
You did. I think I said it too, so I'm right there with you. I thought my lock of the week was Vandy hosting South Carolina. I've been riding in the past few weeks, but they let me down
How
in
smart are you?
typical Vandy fashion. They let us down. So, you got any games to pick this week, Harbin?
I had looked. I thought you had a slate lined up.
Oh, I can get us a slate right now.
Well, get us one. Quit
Let's
talking
get
about
us one here. All right, let's go. Let's go with an ACC game right out of the gate here. Could be. I don't know if these teams are in the playoff hunt. They've both got 2 losses. You got Clemson -10 at Pittsburgh. Who you got?
what did Pitt do this past week? I know they were 7-point favorites against, was it
They
Syracuse?
lost to Virginia 24-19.
They
Not
lost.
good. Yeah, not good.
It will be hard for me to take Clemson to cover double digits on the road. You said it's 10?
Yes.
Give me the Panthers. Back-to-back home games, they figure it out. They play to their competition. I don't think they win, but they cover.
So you're taking Pitt. I'm going to take Clemson. I think Pitt's struggling. I think their lack of offense has caught up with them. Next game, we're going to move through these quickly, if that's okay with you, Harbin. Missouri at South Carolina. South Carolina -13.5 at Williams-Brice
Who's out
Stadium.
from Missouri? I've missed that.
I have no idea. I haven't watched Missouri in weeks.
South Carolina's hottest team in the SEC right now.
They are. They're playing
Like
well.
literally hottest team in the SEC. For that reason, I'm gonna take Missouri.
I like South Carolina. So you got Mizzou. Nice has got the Gamecocks. Let's see what else is going on in the SEC this weekend, Harbin. We've got Texas at Arkansas, Louisiana Monroe at Auburn. Yuck. I mean, Auburn is so bad. They are so bad. I got a reaction. Murray State and Kentucky. Yeah, God almighty. Mercer and Alabama. Who put this schedule together? LSU at Florida. New Mexico State at Texas A&M. Let's put Texas and Arkansas in here. Let's see. Texas is minus 16 and a half, Harbin. Because I was looking at the top 25. It ain't much better. Texas minus 16 and a half at Arkansas.
That's gross. What time are they playing?
12 o'clock.
Oh God.
I'm trying to look at the top. There's just not much going on in the top 25 of significance. It's a lot of higher ranked teams playing nobodies. I mean, you've got like Ohio State and Northwestern. Gross.
Give me Arkansas to cover.
I'm
Backdoor
gonna
cover. Lose by 2 touchdowns.
I'm gonna take Arkansas as well. I'm just doing that because I want Arkansas to kind of win that game. Give us another two-loss team in here. Let's see, who else can we pick? That's three games. We need one more to sandwich in the oh, here's a good one. Arizona State. Let's do this one, Harbin. Because there's not much else that I see. I mean, Cincinnati, Iowa State's okay. Let's do this one. Arizona State 7-2 at Kansas State 7-2. Kansas State's 4-2 in the Big 12. Arizona State's 4-2 in the Big 12. Kansas State -8 at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Kickoff is 7 o'clock.
Give me Kansas State to cover.
I like that pick. I'm taking Kansas State as well. All right, Harbin, the main event. The Tennessee Volunteers travel down. I guess they go down 75 and yank a left, or do they go down 441 or 411, whatever that road is, to Athens? They got to figure out how I'm going. That's besides the point. Tennessee at Sanford Stadium versus Georgia, 7:30 p.m. Mentioned earlier, game opened at 8.5 for Georgia. It's now to 9.5. Over under at 48.5. So they're not expecting a ton of points to be scored with two pretty good defenses going up against each other. Tennessee's 8-1, 5-1 in the conference. Georgia 7-2, 5-2 in the conference. Tennessee beats Georgia, they're out. Georgia, that is. Georgia beats Tennessee. We've got us a logjam in the SEC. Who do you have?
Ah, it's a great question.
I'll go ahead while you think. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to take Tennessee. I'm not saying we win. I'll get to that in a second. I think Tennessee goes down there and covers. I hope that line keeps going up, by the way. Throw a little fuel on our fire, chap our asses a little bit. I like Tennessee to cover. I think this is going to be could be a sloppy-ish type game. Um, I think Georgia win. I think Georgia beats Tennessee, but I would not be surprised if we go down there and win this game. I picked Tennessee to lose this game in our preseason predictions, but a lot's changed. Georgia's not the team we thought they were. They're still very good, but they're not the team. They have flaws. They're not the team we thought they were. It's tough. Tennessee does not do well on the road. We saw it this year with Arkansas. We've seen it in the past under Josh Heupel. Don't have a lot of faith that we win this game, but I think we cover. 9.5 is a lot of points. I just think Tennessee covers. I don't think we win. Give me the Vols.
A wise man once told me that if the line seems like too many points, it's normally not enough. That's
Who
the
is the? I think I might know who this wise man is, but continue.
that's the harsh reality of this game. But like we rambled about for 20 minutes, what Georgia are you going to get? Are you going to get the red ass treatment, Georgia? I don't know if Kurt. I don't think Kirby's lost back to back games at Georgia since his first season. What would make you think he's going to start now? Hell, if you follow MSC ESPN, last week was the first time they lost to a non-Alabama team, which is the dumbest stat of all time, by the way.
They like that kind of a stat, don't they? They like throwing that one out there.
Yeah, they like doing this.
Yeah.
I hope everybody's listening to that.
If you're watching, you're welcome.
I I just can't confidently say that I see a scenario where we win this ball game. I just don't. Our like some of the signs are looking pretty good. Defense is great. Carson Beck's been playing bad. Their O line's not very good. They can't convert a third down to save their grandmother. It's a night game in Athens. Our O line is bad. I know we've been at home for a long time. Don't forget how bad we play on the road and how we coach not to lose. You would think because some of the excuses were, oh, we don't want to reveal anything. We don't reveal anything. Well, this is the game where you reveal shit.
Yes.
So by that theory, the play calling will be much better. If it's not, you'll have your answer about Tennessee and road games. And I hope we don't get the answer I think I'm going to get. I'll just put it that way. In July, I said we'd lose to Arkansas and split with Alabama and Georgia. I'm sticking with my gut here. I think Tennessee winning is the best thing for the SEC as far as simplicity and assuring teams in the playoff for the conference. I think the last thing Greg Sankey and company want is six teams finishing 10-2. It's the last thing they want. So, Josh, Nico, Dylan, James, go do it for the conference. But Georgia coming off a three-score loss and they get a home rivalry game at night to recover. It's a it's a bad it's a bad recipe, personal opinion. We don't get blown out, but I think it's very similar to that game 2 years ago. I think we lose by two scores and it may not be that close.
Fair enough. What if Tennessee wants to win this game? I've talked about it a little bit, but if Tennessee wants to win this game, those numbers I mentioned earlier, remember those. But if they want to win this game, they can't put the ball on the ground or throw picks. And they need to come out and play well early because that crowd's going to be. I know Georgia's lost a couple games, but they're still going to be amped up because they're going to feel like they're being disrespected. They're down, kind of like 2 years ago. I mean, that place was very raucous. They felt like they had been disrespected. And the fans, we've done that too. We've come out and we've made a difference in a game, and that stadium can make a difference in a football game, which is one reason I think Tennessee's so heavily underdogs in this game, such a heavy underdog in this game. But if Tennessee can come out and not play like they're scared shitless and their eyes are as big as a frisbee walking in that stadium and keep that crowd at bay a little bit, I think they can be fine. But you're right. They've played a lot of home games this year, especially in a row. They've not been outside of the state of Tennessee in almost a month or over a month now, going back to Arkansas. So We've been in the friendly confines for over a month, and now we're going to one of the most hostile places in college football to play a game. So it's not going to be easy, but if they can come out and try to keep that crowd out of it and subdue it a little bit, they might have a chance. But I don't think we win. I just don't. Maybe I'm being negative Nancy, negative niece here, but um, I just don't. But there's some things need to go our way, and if they go our way, we'll have a shot at it. Which you can say that about any football game. I just don't want them to go down there, Harbin, and play scared and to not lose like we have under Josh Heupel on the road several times. Let's not do that. Let's just go out there and if you go for it, lay it on the line and you lose, it's all right. You got two more chances to go 10-2. It's okay. I'm not saying I'll be happy if we lose, but I'm not going to be distraught, devastated. Season's not over. Still a lot to play for. So we'll see what happens. I'm planning on going down. I think Dr. Niece will be there. We'll be hanging out. So if you're down there, give me a shout. I'll try to tell you where I'm at. I don't even know where I'll be at, but I'll try to tell you. Don't know where, but 2 years ago it was a parking garage because it rained most of the day, and then we went to the stadium and it rained again, and I took no rain gear with me, so not smart on my part. But um, Harbin, since we recorded last, I believe the World Series is over now. The poor old Yankees lost to the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman had himself a series, so baseball's over till the springtime. Tennessee baseball's been playing their World Series. I think it was like a best 2 out of 3. They played in Chattanooga. Had some rain the other night. I don't even know if it was a 2 out of 3. And then they played it the final baseball game ever at Smoky Stadium in Kodak. It was one of the Tennessee World Series games, Tennessee orange and white or whatever they're calling it. And then they played, I think, today in Lindsey Nelson. So Tennessee's wrapping up their fall baseball. I think they're going to be good again. You can count on that. They're recruiting really well again. So you can expect Tennessee to be in the hunt for a national title again next year. I'm happy to report from what I'm hearing. So reports out of fall camp is they got some ball players over there, Harbin. So you got any final thoughts before we wrap this up? I'm tired.
Shame on the Smokies for leaving Kodak.
It stinks. I'm not mad that they're in Knoxville because it's for me where I'm at, the distance isn't there's no difference, but I hated when they left Knoxville to begin with, but Kodak had kind of become the home, and that stadium's not really that old, 24 years old. It's a great place to watch baseball. I hate that they're leaving, but it is what it is. Sucks.
Is what it is. Tennessee has a very good shot of winning this football game on Saturday. It just depends on if we can execute. There's 3 or 4 things that we absolutely have to do to win. And if you don't do 1 or 2 of them, you're going to lose. And you no longer control your own destiny at that point. So, JWTDG, man up and knock the hell out of the guy standing in front of you. That's
Um,
all
since
really got.
Trump won Harbin, I want this country to be unified. We're not going to do a hater and loser this week, even though there are plenty. I'm gonna take a week off from hater and loser. I got too much love in my heart this week.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you said that. The last year that Donald Trump won the presidential election, the Tennessee Volunteers won in Athens. I'm just following the signs. So I may change my pick.
Well, there you go. Also, the last time Donald Trump won the election, the Cubs won the World Series. They didn't even make the playoffs this year. So you can throw that one out the window, maybe. But you are right. We did win in Athens last time he won the election. Um, I got a shout out, Harbin.
Okay.
I don't think she listens to the show, but I want to give Chassie Griff a shout out for putting this tailgate together. I've made life hard on her, to say the least, the last few weeks at these tailgates. Because I got a lot going on and I can't get my crap together, literally, can't get stuff together. And Chassis wants to have great tailgates, and we do have great tailgates. We have fantastic tailgates, but shout out for Chassis for trying to keep us organized. It's not easy between me and you and Griff and Big Montana and whoever else is there. It's not an easy job. So shout out Chassis. And she finally danced on the truck bed yesterday, first time this season. And also, Harbin, I have an anonymous user. Um, I don't know if this is a shout out. They said they wanted a shout out on the pod. It's an anonymous user. Not going to give away their name, but they said they had a specific, I don't know if it's a message or a shout out. North Texas can't compete in user games. I don't know what this means. I was just asked to read that over the air.
That's fake news. Good thing in late January we won't have to worry about fake news anymore.
Yes.
So we've only got 2 months left. So well, I'm gonna let that roll off my back, and I'm gonna play the YMCA. I'm gonna enjoy my Sunday evening.
We're going to have the YMCA taking us out tonight. I had a Trump song coming in. We're going to have the YMCA taking us out, Harbin. Can I get a Trump dance? Fantastic. Oh, it was great. You weren't at the truck at the end of the game last night. We left just a tick early. And I get back to the truck and I had my phone out. Fireworks start going off in Neyland Stadium after the game ended. I took a video of the Trump flag flying in the wind, fireworks going off. It was fantastic. It was amazing.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Unbelievable. Harb, appreciate you coming on. Maybe we'll get Gavin back on here one day and the rest of the YY8 crew. Oh, shout out YY8 refugee. He came by Z11 yesterday and hung out with us. And as soon as he sat down, the Vols started playing poorly. And then he left and we played better. So shame on you, YY8 refugee. But it was good to see him. We had the old YY8, the OG YY8 crew back together for a few minutes. We took a picture, posted it on our Twitter. So Harbin, I'll be down in Georgia. Y'all be praying for me this week as I go down to enemy territory, that wretched place in Athens. So I'll be down there. Harb, appreciate you coming on. We'll do it again next week. Hopefully talking about a win, but who knows? We'll see. But Harbin, we'll see you next week. For everybody else, this has been the Section YY8 podcast.